Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of September 17th, 2025. A little bit of a smaller DC week, but still a pretty solid week. You know, we're getting closer and closer to the events of DCKO. I've actually had a chance to read DCKO #1, as has Rocky. I'm not going to spoil anything whatsoever, other than to say everybody's in for some twists and turns based on things that happened in the first issue, and everything that you may think or we may have thought or have been told may not actually be true, which is great, right? Because then it means we can be surprised, and things that happen can be unexpected and all that sort of stuff. So, hope everybody got a chance to check out our episode where we made our picks, because that was a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll see how things go when October rolls around. Speaking of October, the New York Comic Con is coming up. I'm still trying to make my way there. I asked everybody last week if you were so inclined to donate. There may have been some confusion. Maybe I didn't say it right. Maybe I wasn't speaking English. I don't know. I never at any point said that I would stop making content or that I was asking for money to make my YouTube show. That was called, first of all, that was called ridiculous by some people, which I thought in and of itself was ridiculous, because there's plenty of people out there that do ask. They do super chats. They run a Patreon. They literally do ask for money to make their show, which we have never done and never will do. My point was simply, if you enjoy the content, maybe you want to donate. You certainly don't have to. And if you don't want to, or maybe you want to, but money's just tight right now, you don't have to tell me in the comments that you're not going to give me a donation. You can just not give me a donation, and that will accomplish me knowing that you're not going to give me a donation. Like, I don't know why you have to call it out. I'm not giving you any money. It just kind of, I don't know. It seems like a very crass thing to do. I don't know. I thought it was kind of strange. So I'm not quite there yet. So far, I've gotten one donation for $15. So not quite there yet. With making it, which again, I can't even. I mean, so I've been doing this for 14 years. It wasn't as expensive when I first started, but now it's probably close to I spent probably $1,000 a year, maybe a little bit more, to produce the podcast. That includes, my paying for my website, and so you have to pay for your website to be hosted, and you have to pay for the name of your website separately to register the name yearly. And then the other fees are like my storage, my media storage, right? Like I have to go somewhere and store the audio or the video files that then allows me to upload and put it online. Now, I could do it differently if I had just started out doing YouTube. This is a little behind the scenes here, inside baseball. People that just do YouTube and upload it there, like YouTube holds it for you. But if you start out the way I did and you're just doing audio only, you need somebody to hold those audio files. And I use one of the most popular and stable platforms called Libsyn, which it's a minimum of $30 a month. But then for a certain amount, and if I go over that amount, then I have to pay more. And I almost always go over that amount, so I have to pay a little more. So it's probably like $40 a month. So when I don't like to think about it, honestly. Like, I think about how, like, 14 years at, $350 for my website, another $150 for my domain registration, and then, $30 to $40 a month for all the media hosting, and add that up and how much I've spent over the years. So again, nobody has to give anything. It's definitely a first world problem that I, had this unexpected expense, and now I might not be able to go to New York Comic Con. All I was saying last time was, if you've enjoyed this content over the last 14 years, maybe it's worth $1. Maybe you think of all those episodes that you've listened to and divide it up and say, hey, I'm giving, I don't know, if you've listened to 100 episodes and you give me $1, you're paying 1 cent. And I would hope that I'm providing, 1 cent worth of entertainment per episode, but maybe I'm not. Because again, people haven't really been able to, and I get it. Like, maybe you just don't have the money. But like, when I think about it, like, and this is just in terms of, hey, this is entertainment value. But then when I think about all the things that I've done to help the community, holding charity auctions for kids with leukemia, promoting other people's Kickstarters, just like all the things, and I'm happy to do it. And I do the show because I want to do it and I enjoy it and I want to get more people reading comics. So I'm not in any way saying I'm owed anything. So I just want to clear that up because people, I don't know, there are some people that commented that I was being like unreasonable in asking. And I debated. I wasn't going to do this because I never have. And now that I have, I just want to make my intentions clear. Like I 100% get that maybe you don't want to contribute to, allow me to go. I'm definitely in a privileged position. The fact that I've even got to go to New York Comic Con even once, when many people would love to go and just don't have the opportunity, or San Diego Comic Con for that matter. But again, I was planning on going. I made commitments to go, to do interviews and to cover certain things. And I just didn't want to have to back out of those commitments. So again, I just thought I'd ask if anybody wants to give $1 or $2, you can. I'm happy to accept it. I'm very grateful for the one person that's donated so far. And hopefully I'll find a way to go. I mean, if it doesn't work out where I get enough donations to go, maybe I'll sell some comics, which, I hate to do. But again, it's just, it bothers me that I made these commitments to go. And if I can't make it, I'll just go to those people, the companies and the publishers that I agreed to do coverage for, and just tell them, hey, unforeseen circumstances, I'm not going to be able to make it, and they will understand. But I would prefer to go. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up because there seemed to be some confusion about that I was asking for money to do a YouTube show, that's not the case. I'm never going to charge my content, never have. So anyway, let's kick it off by opening up our wonderful Fleer Brilliance packs for Superman, and then we'll dive into the books. So kicking it off, we've got Eve Teschmacher. Looks quite different from the Eve that I know from the film. Next one up is Desaad, looking very Jack Kirby-ish. Then we've got another classic cover. Oh, this is a good one. This is a fantastic one. That's Kurt Swan, probably the number one most recognized Superman artist, at least in my childhood. That's that final issue, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, from Alan Moore.
Yeah, you bet. That's great. One of my favorite issues.
Yeah. So I mean, literally, I've already gotten an Action Comics 1, and now we have what at the time was the the final issue. Then we have a Metallo, looking nice and green, and then finally, Doomsday. So
nice.
Yeah. I saw somebody that posted. I didn't watch the video. I just saw that it was on YouTube that somebody opened a whole box, all 14 packs. But it wasn't clear to me because they just put it up the other day. It wasn't clear to me if that was a box that they had gotten in San Diego, or if they're out now in stores, in Targets and Walmarts and what have you, for people to buy. So they might be out there for you to check out. They won't look exactly like this. The finishes might be a little bit different, but anyway. I thought it was a solid week of DC books, Rocky. But that being said, nothing blew me away. How'd you feel about the week overall?
Nothing actually really blew me away. This was, I don't know. I just, it was an okay week. I found it easy to sort of choose my top 5. I did, and my number 1 really stood out for me. Is that I enjoyed quite a bit more than the rest of it. But still, I mean, still a decent week, and I'm just so excited for DC. I'm looking forward to October. So my excitement for October will get me through any downs I might have or disappointments I might have coming into the end of September. And there's not a lot of disappointments for DC. They're still doing a pretty damn good job. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's always a little strange because I feel like when you have these big events about to start, it's almost like there's a little bit of a lame duck period because everybody starts looking for, to that big event, and while you're still wrapping up, storylines. We saw it before Absolute Power. Now we're seeing it before DC KO, and also I think so. We didn't have them in our previews, but isn't doesn't the DC Marvel stuff come out this week? The crossover stuff, the Marvel or the
it's supposed to, but Marvel is publishing the first one themselves, so I don't know if it's going to be in our preview pack, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
So Deadpool, Batman,
right.
So that's out. Which I honestly, I don't even know that I'll pick it up. Like
Yeah. Well, one of the
I'm not
people
the
in the
biggest.
chat were asking, somebody was asking us in the comments if we're going to be reviewing DC Batman. And I said, I hope we are, to be honest, because it's kind of well, I mean, it is a crossover. It is
Yeah,
arguably historic. So, I mean, if we can get our hands on it, that would be great. But I don't know if because like I said, DC's going to publish the second one, right? So
yeah.
I would imagine one of them is going to be in the preview packs, but we could still review it. It might just be a little late. So if we do review it, I suspect it might be not. It might be have its own video. We'll
Yeah, and
see.
I'm happy to pick. Yeah, I'm happy to pick it up if people are curious about my. I mean, I'm not. I don't really like Deadpool as a character.
Oh,
I just
it's
don't.
all right.
Yeah, he just doesn't. He just doesn't appeal to me, and I'm not the biggest Batman fan either. But the appeal for me, if, sitting here thinking about it, is the creators. I mean, there's a lot of big creators on that book, so that might be where I go. I will say before we dive in that Voyeur is out this week from Ignition Press. It's the first of their offerings. They have a lot of great books coming. I do recommend everybody pick that up. Like obviously I haven't read Deadpool Batman, so maybe it's not fair for me to recommend Voyeur, which I've read when I haven't read uh, Deadpool Batman. But I do. I recommend Voyeur. And if you want to pick up Deadpool Batman, go ahead. I might maybe I'll pick it up tomorrow when I like literally pick it up off the shelf and flip through it tomorrow. And yeah, maybe I mean, I probably should get. I mean, if we're going to review it, obviously I need to pick it up and read it. So, anyway, first book we're going to talk about, Cirque de Sin Part 1, What I Was Afraid Of, which is Nightwing number 130 from writer Dan Waters. Dexter Soy is the artist, Veronica Gandini on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. This did not make my top 5. I don't know. There was something about it that just didn't do it for me. It actually came in at number 7 of the 9 books that we're going to review. So kind of on the low end. Partly because it felt a little bit cliched. Um, and it's so interesting. Like I have a little bit mixed feelings. We know that we have this sort of Van-Z stand-in, if you will, this Kryptonian Nightwing, as it were, and it is interesting that Trinity shows up in Bloodhaven and they're asking, they're talking to Nightwing about the fact that, there's this superhero there and Martian Manhunter along with the Trinity. So it's actually the 4 of them. And he's like, okay, he's not actually Kryptonian. He's calling himself Nightwing Prime. This is, he sort of tells the 4 that show up there that, this is my problem, basically. And it is interesting that the 4 of them, 4 of the most powerful heroes in the DC universe, they do say, okay, we're going to let you take this upon yourself, if you will. But we're ready to step in, if you don't, if you don't take care of it. But I don't know. It felt a little cliched, right? And he has the cure. He has this stuff that he's going to give Bryce, is the little boy's name, or teenage boy, whatever you want to say. That's going to cure him, and he ends up changing his mind because he knows that he thinks he can train Bryce to control the powers and do good and what have you. And the thing that bugged me about it was, I mean, this is so cliched and so tropey that it's going to go wrong, right? That this teenage kid is not going to be able to handle these powers, and he's going to end up killing somebody, or something's going to go terribly wrong, or he's going to lose control, or he's going to get angry and snap, or something. You just know this is going to go badly, and it just seems like such an irresponsible choice for Dick Grayson to make, and so that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. The decision that he makes and just how cliched it was. So that really dropped it for me in terms of how much I was enjoying this storyline. It's not terrible by any stretch, but those things kept it out of my top 5. So anyway, it is in your top 5, Rocky. So give us your thoughts on it.
Yeah, just to be clear, 4 out of the comics in my top 5 wouldn't have made my top 5 in probably 4 of the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Fair. Yeah.
I actually echo some of your comments about this issue, but it's in my top five. But I did enjoy this. I actually really, first of all, I really like the idea. It is tropey, I know. Nightwing is also the sort of de facto mentor of Jonathan Kent, Superboy slash new Superman, right? And for whatever reason, he's not a mentor to John Kent isn't around anymore, really. Or if he is, he's in the pages of Secret Six. That's gone. Where's John Kent? I don't know, but he's not in the pages of Nightwing. Nightwing now, Dick Grayson is now mentoring another de facto Kryptonian. And this time it's Nightwing Prime, this Bryce kid who's got his powers via the fifth dimension. But I sort of like the take that Dan Watters has on it. I'll disagree with you slightly with an air of optimism that perhaps you don't share, that I really like the fact, and maybe he duped Nightwing, but I like the fact that Bryce would have taken the antidote that removed his powers, but he stopped. But Nightwing stopped him, and he stopped him because Bryce mentioned that he feels something is off in Bloodhaven, that there's an evil lurking. And Nightwing's Dick Grayson has felt it too. And the fact that Bryce also felt it made him actually kind of feel good. And maybe there's hope for him, that he's got the same instincts I do, and I can train him. And, Nightwing has a little bit of trepidation, training him, but he's willing to do it. And I like that. I like the fact that I don't know what to expect. You might be 100% right that it's a disastrous decision that might blow up in their face. It reminds me of a little bit of the storyline with Batman and how he had that Gotham and Gotham Girl there in the early issues of Tom King. But so you never know. I'm sure Dan Watters is familiar with that storyline. It'd be interesting to see what Dan Watters does with this. This has a lot of potential. And Dan Watters, he's sort of earned my trust so far in this Nightwing run, and so I'm willing to cut him a lot of slack on that and to see where he takes this. And I thought this was a really great opening first issue arc, because this is a new storyline. It feels like a new status quo in Bloodhaven. The gangs are coming back. There's more at stake. The people are being manipulated by Spheric Industries. I kind of like it, because Bloodhaven is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be Metropolis. It's supposed to be a little bit on the dark side. So I like to see some of that darkness returning with a little bit of hope thrown in with Nightwing Prime. So for that reason, it made my top five. And Dexter Soy's art is fantastic. Dexter Soy's art's really good. I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, Dexter Soy has been killing it on art throughout the run. And I mean, you're right. I mean, Bryce was willing to take the antidote. That's what kind of bugged me. The fact that it was Nightwing that was like, no, don't. I changed my mind. Like, dude, commit one way or the other. Like, I get that. But, on the other hand, I do like the idea of there being a Kryptonian Nightwing. Like, under different circumstances, I would be a big fan of this character. But it just, the foreshadowing of how this is going to go wrong is so overt and over the top. Like, I hope I'm wrong. And Dan Watters throws us for a loop, and Bryce ends up being like this, total hero, whatever. Like, if it had played out in a different way, it would be really cool to have a Nightwing Prime with the powers of a Kryptonian. But again, it's so obviously going to go wrong. Maybe it's the obviousness of it that kind of bugs me. So anyway, let's move on. Yeah. Up next, we have Batman, or The Batman Second Night, Book 1, written by Dan Jurgens, art by Mike Perkins, colors by Mike Spicer, letters by Simon Bolin. We both, I think, really enjoyed the Batman First Night, which was set sort of toward the end of the Great Depression. This one, we're jumping forward a few years. We're now in 1939. If you're not familiar with world history, that is when World War II basically started in Europe, when Germany invaded Poland and Soviet Union invaded the other side. The Nazis came in from one side and the Soviet Union came from the other. They were allies originally in World War II, if you weren't aware of that. So anyway, I love the fact that, first of all, the art from Mike Perkins. This is my favorite project that Mike Perkins has ever worked on. Like, the architecture, the automobiles, like everything. You can tell he's done so much research, and it feels so much of the time. The detail is still there, the strong storytelling, the emotion in the faces, what have you. Batman's costume, in and of itself looks fantastic. It kind of if you go back and look at the Golden Age Batman, how the ears were bigger and they kind of stuck out, looked more like an actual bat. He just nails all of it. And Dan Jurgens on the narrative side is doing such a fantastic job of making these people feel authentic of the time period, the language they're using, the vocabulary they're using. This is a Bruce Wayne who is still learning the ropes in a lot of ways. Scarecrow is the kind of the big bad here, along with another character that I don't know that the other villain gets named. He's interesting.
I call him the Hangman. I'm thinking of him. He looks like a hangman, but
I was gonna say he's got the hood of and I wouldn't not maybe not a hangman, maybe just the executioner. He does have a rope like wrapped around him like hangman, but he also has an axe, because sometimes they'd use an axe, But regardless of whether he was the hangman, depending on how they were executing criminals back in the day, no matter what, the guy pulling the lever for the gallows would have a hood on, or if he was chopping their heads off with an axe, he would have that black hood on. So yeah, maybe the executioner is a better name. Hangman sounds better. I'd rather him be called maybe the hanging man or something. But anyway, regardless of what he calls himself, Scarecrow kind of teams up with him because he's out there. This hangman or this hanging man villain is out there like killing people, and he's creating fear in Gotham, which the Scarecrow very much respects and appreciates, because he's all about creating fear. And so he figures out who he is apparently, and like shows up at his headquarters, and now they're teamed up, and Batman's got to go up against both of them when appropriately titled Second Night. I mean, it's almost, you could liken it to, this is only his second night out in as Batman. He still is very much learning the ropes, and that comes across. And then finally, the other thing that's great, we have an investigative reporter who you may have heard of that has come to Gotham to for a couple reasons. Ostensibly, she's come there to cover the premiere of a new film that's being released. You got to think 1939 Hollywood. Movies were a big deal. It was kind of the start of the big Hollywood era, where it had gotten to the point where certain movie stars were just revered as gods. And you think back on it now, like, it's so toxic, right? So many things hidden. People having to hide their sexuality. I mean, not just because of Hollywood, that just wasn't accepted back then, to an even lesser degree than it's partially accepted now, I guess we'll say. But anyway, the studios, they had, it was all about the bottom line, and they were raking in the money. And so they had to give these Hollywood stars, these actors, they had to be, completely sanitized and their lives controlled, and the, media narrative completely controlled, because everybody just looked up to them. And I mean, it was just such a different time of media. You didn't even have television at this time that was broadcasting. So it was really, what entertainment did you have? So it's not, excuse me, not a big surprise that these actors were, just revered. They were the biggest names in the world. They were more well-known than politicians. And so anyway, we saw in Batman First Night that Bruce, had started a relationship with one of these starlets. And because he's investing in the movie, the world premiere of one of these movies, instead of being in Hollywood or Los Angeles or New York, is happening in Gotham City. So the Daily Planet, or actually, I think she's still working for the Daily Star at this time.
That's right.
They send their reporter Lois Lane to Gotham to cover this, the premiere of this film that Bruce Wayne has helped finance. But really, being that she's Lois Lane, the dogged reporter always searching for the truth, she really, has sort of manipulated her paper to send her there because she wants to investigate the rumors she's heard about the Batman. So that's really why she's there. But again, it's a Lois Lane that feels like Dan Jurgens does a great job. She feels like Lois Lane in her actions and the way she speaks. But she also feels very much of the time period, and the way that she's drawn by Mike Perkins kind of solidifies that as well. So I just loved everything about this first issue. I love that DC is doing these kind of throwback Batman first night, second night type of stories. And what's great is they're Black Label, But as Dan and Mike Perkins and I hope you all had a chance to listen when they came on to talk about the first volume before the first issue dropped, and how Dan basically confirmed, because I had read the first issue before they came on, and I was like, nothing that happens in this series or in the first issue of the first series could be considered out of continuity. So even though it's Black Label, and Dan confirmed that, he's like, yeah, even though these are Black Label and technically they're out of continuity, there's nothing that happens here that contradicts anything that's necessarily come before. Um, and again, this is the earliest days of Batman. So, but there's nothing in these books where you would read it and go, well, Batman wouldn't do that, or that doesn't make sense for Batman in his earliest days to have done this or acted like this, when it doesn't make sense for who he is now. If there's anything you could think of why it's Black Label and out of continuity, it's just because based on the age of Batman in the current comics, in 2025, if he was this old in 1939, he would
Yeah.
be like 150 years old in 2025.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. So if anything, that's why it's Black Label. But my point is that you can read these if you're not even caught up on regular, like maybe you don't read regular Batman comics, the Matt Fraction series that just started or whatever. Or maybe you're like, Batman is like cliched or he's been power crept or whatever. That is not this Batman. This is the Batman in his earliest days where he's learning the ropes. He's not overly powerful. He doubts himself still. Like it's a very grounded and almost humanized Batman in a way. And I appreciate that from Dan Jurgens. And again, the Mike Perkins art is just fantastic. So this definitely made my my top 5. I think I even put it in my top 3. Yeah, it's in my top 3. So anyway, what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Yeah, this easily made my top 3. I mean, there's no question about it. This would have made this probably would be competitive for my top 5 in most other weeks as well. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this more than the first volume. I enjoyed this first issue of Second Night than I did more than the first 3 issues of the first volume. I love Mike Perkins' art. It's fantastic. The color work's fantastic. I love the Gregory Peck look. The classic Hollywood Gregory Peck as Bruce Wayne type of look. Julie Madsen, she looks sexy. Lois Lane looks sexy. The use of Scarecrow in this Hangman character, at least that's what we're calling him. What he's actually called or will be called in the story, we're not really sure. I think the story work is great. The narration is great. I think the dialogue is crisp and sharp. I think, it feels, you talk about continuity. This is an Elseworlds tale to me. That's how I view it. This is just Batman in a different setting. And I have no interest whatsoever of trying to fit this into any existing continuity. I just love it for what it is. I personally would love, if James Gunn wants to do something different, I would love a Warner Brothers animated feature of a Batman like this. Like Into the Spider-Verse, do a Batman second. I would love to see this as a high elevated adult, sort of like adult orientated, like cartoon animation for Warner Brothers. I would love this for that. I think it's ideally suited. It has a Hollywood starlet feel to it. It's historical. It's got historical references. Even the name of the movie, I got some vibes of Night of the Broken Glass, the movie that Julie Madsen, that Bruce Wayne is funding, Night of a Thousand Cuts. It reminds me in history of Night of the Night of Broken Glass, in the Crystal Mock with what happened to the Jews in 1939, 38, I think. And anyways, I don't know what the movie's about. It's irrelevant, but there's always some sort of historical reference, and it grounds the setting here. So if you're even remotely interested, a student of history, and I am, in fact, one of my degrees that I did nothing with is history, and so I quite like. I love military history. I love the history of World War II. It's something that I was quite into, and so I'm familiar with this, and so I'm familiar with the setting, and I love it. And I don't need to add. You talk quite a bit about it. It's just. Dan Jurgens, I think this is great work. And Lois Lane, that tells me that at some point we're going to get Superman in this setting. I would love that. Now, Superman, we know, appeared in 1938. Is he going to appear at some point? Are we going to get Dan Jurgens writing about Superman in this particular universe that with this particular style, with Mike Perkins drawing Clark Kent? I would love that. It's really whet my appetite. In fact, it's the appearance of Lois Lane that may very well have elevated me and got me more excited about this comic as I read it. And so, yeah, so right on board, and definitely I high recommend this week for this comic.
Forget about animation. I'd take this live action.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
I never saw the Batman, the Matt Reeves, whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't particularly inclined to see it. I'm not a fan of Robert Pattinson or whatever. Then people that saw it specifically told me, you won't like it, don't go see it. So I never wasted my time going to see it. First DC comic movie I haven't gone to see in the theaters that I can remember. Actually, that's not true. I didn't go see James Gunn's Suicide Squad either, or Birds of Prey. Now that I think about it, so there's been a few. So anyway, I never went and saw it, but I know we're getting a second. I guess the script finally just got approved for Pattinson returning as Batman. But yeah, I would rather have this. I would rather have a Batman first night, second night film than another Pattinson movie. But I say that having not seen. I mean, so take that with a grain of salt or whatever. Anyway, up next we have New Gods number 10. This is from writer Ram V. Pai Par handles the art for pages 5 through 20. Evan Cagle handles the first 4 pages. Francisco Segala colors those first 4 pages, and Pai Par colors their own art. Tom Napolitano handles the letters throughout. I really enjoyed this New Gods. I've been enjoying it. This one came in my top 3. Mostly because we had questions. There was hints of Seraphim from the Forever People, being a villain. It starts off and we're just not sure of his motivations. He's been, a bit of a mysterious figure throughout the series. And then as he's shown up more and more, it becomes clear or more clear that he is working against the heroes. And what I love about this issue, and especially those first 4 pages with the art by Evan Cagle, which is just amazing. Like the detail and the and it is a little wordy. We do get a lot of text, and I appreciated the way Ram V kind of established the fact that this is a kid that grew up in on New Genesis but always felt kind of strange and a bit of an outsider, what have you. So it was a great way, flashing back and looking at his earliest childhood, to kind of explain how he broke bad, if you will. But what I loved about it, once we shift away from those first 4 pages and get to the modern time where we see Seraphim interacting with Maxwell Lord, and we see that he's brought the new god, if you will. And it makes sense, and we see Seraphim kind of discovering the error of his ways, and it's a little tropey and it's a little cliched, but I didn't mind it because what we got in the first 4 pages explained how Seraphim would have fallen for something like that, right? Like, he's not as familiar with Max Lord as you and I might be. We would know better than to ever trust anything that comes out of Maxwell Lord's mouth, just like we would never trust anything that Darkseid, Desaad, or Glorious Godfrey would have said, right? Like we just wouldn't. But Seraphim is so susceptible to being manipulated because of him always feeling like an outsider, because of the way that he viewed the world, because of the way he wanted things to be, which was, I think, shown very well and subtextually explained by the fact that, he would watch these old Westerns and what have you. And that's kind of where he got his identity, where, the good guys always win in the end. And it's almost this naivete, this purity of heart of the way he wants the world to work, as opposed to how the world actually works. And it's so tragic in a lot of ways. And again, I really enjoyed the Evan Cagle art. The Pai Par art, it's okay. He uses a very thick line when it comes to line weight, which I don't usually enjoy, but the way he colors it makes it work. It makes it work. So I enjoyed that. There was enough action. It's great to see the heroes kind of the new gods along with the heroes of the DC universe, fighting alongside each other. We're starting to get some answers of what's going on. It's interesting based on the timing. We know we have DCKO. We talked about that before, coming up real soon. We've been told that the New Gods series is going to, tie in with the Absolute Universe and what have you, kind of strongly. And we may have the first hint of that here when Maxwell Lord's able to escape with this young boy that's exhibited these powers. He supposedly is the next generation of the New Gods reborn, and he takes him to this black hole. And that the black hole that shows up in this particular issue, it may be the portal to the Absolute Universe, because it's not acting the way that a normal black hole acts and what have you. So, yeah, this might be kind of the first hint of a way to get to the Absolute Universe, because so far traveling back and forth has been very problematic. I mean, we know Booster was able to go. We know at some point Time Trapper was able to go and rescue Booster. But it's been problematic to travel. We saw in a recent issue of Superman, Superboy Prime, having to punch reality in order to break it to get there. So this may be a little bit more of a conventional way to get there. But anyway, I really enjoyed this, mostly for the fact that in a lot of ways it's a Seraphim spotlight issue. And Seraphim is a character that has never, in my mind, been fleshed out to this extent. Always a bit of a sort of a two-dimensional character with not a whole heck of a lot of background to him. So anyway, this didn't make your top 5, Rocky, but you have anything that you want to add?
Yeah, just I wish I had the clarity that you seem to get out of this. I rank this. This came in at number 8 for me. I think first thing is I continue to be frustrated with the inconsistent art in this series, because I think that the story is very interesting. This is going somewhere. It does feel like it's going somewhere, and I share your plot points on that. Is that it does seem to be going somewhere. I was a little disappointed with the Seraphim characterization, only because I thought the background. I know he's part of the Forever People, and even though I've been reading DC Comics a long time, I don't know much about the Forever People. I even have a couple of the old Forever People comics that I haven't read it, and I can't remember ever reading it. I don't know much about the Forever People. I still don't know much about Seraphim. So what is the fact that he used to watch Westerns and eat popcorn? Who are his parents? Why is he a god? Who are his parents? Why exactly was he? Why am I to believe that he's more easily manipulated by? I mean, the background here, it just seemed to be he was. I still don't understand. It seemed to be that he was told that Maxwell Lord told him that we're going to kidnap this kid to use as a weapon to protect the world. Why? Why would he think? Why would he believe Maxwell Lord? If he's been on Earth and he's been on Earth, he knows Maxwell Lord's a bad guy. He knows who knows who the Justice League is. I don't see any explanation that I think makes any sense why he's this stupid. I mean, okay, he's raised to be young and he likes watching Westerns. What does that have to do with the central premise that he's manipulated by Maxwell Lord? Okay, now Maxwell Lord can control minds, but he's clearly not being controlled by Maxwell Lord. He was just plain talked into it. He seemed to be wanting to do this. I mean, I get it. But I was surprised by this because for me, I just never bought into it. I don't really buy into how Seraphim was the one who, he's really cool. I like the Western analogy and he likes Westerns, but I just thought, I just didn't quite buy it, why this guy would get sucked in like this. I didn't quite buy it. And for that reason, that part didn't work for me. And that sort of set the tone for me continuing for the rest of the book. I really like the Justice League. I love Wonder Woman and Big Barda as a potential tease in the DCKO. Will Big Barda end up going against Wonder Woman? I don't know, but Wonder Woman and Big Barda fight alongside each other this issue, which is really cool. Fighting the female Furies, which is pretty cool. I love that. I love Desaad. He's sick. The way he bends Seraphim's fingers just by his voice, by something some utterance. So it's really cool. Good. Good scenes, but overall, I didn't quite get the Seraphim references or the story. I missed out on that. I didn't quite get that. So,
yeah, you didn't understand why why Maxwell Lord would have been able to manipulate him. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I didn't quite buy it out, but I was just surprised he, I was surprised that he was just that foolish and that he couldn't see that because that he would fall for that. I just I didn't see how he was that. I mean, sure, he might be. Even if you're naive, you know who a bad guy is and you know who the Justice League are. I didn't see how he could get sucked in like that and do something so foolish. I didn't quite, you know. I was just surprised, and how we managed to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. It just seems sort of didn't quite didn't mesh with me. But whatever.
I mean, it's Maxwell Lord's pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes
No, he never used
over
his
the years.
powers. He never used his powers on him. Like, but
He
I'm just
never
saying.
controlled his mind, but he never controlled it. But it's kind of like Glorious Godfrey, right? Like you think about like and this is going back a ways, like Legends, right? Like
Mm,
the first big event coming out of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, Glorious Godfrey, was espousing things against superheroes and whatever. Not so different from what Amanda Waller was doing in Absolute Power when you stop to think about it. Glorious Godfrey wasn't mind controlling every single person. It was rhetoric, right? And you start to fall into mob think, if you will. So while
mm,
Maxwell Lord didn't overtly use his powers on this guy, Maxwell Lord has the ability. He has those traits. He has the ability to manipulate people and tell them what they want to hear and spin a tale, if you will.
yeah.
Just like plenty of politicians or charismatic leaders. I mean, people don't become cult leaders because they actually have superpowers and they're able to manipulate people's minds and control people's minds. They have that gift of gab, if you will, to sort of convince people. So, I mean, I get it. If you're not that familiar with Seraphin and you're told he was a hero, how would he fall for this? I mean, I'm not saying that the guy was smart to fall for this by any stretch. And as far as his parents, I don't think we've ever been told whose parents were. Like all the Forever People are Earth. I mean, that's what makes them the Forever People. So if you're watching or listening, and you're not familiar. So the Forever People, they're all from Earth. There's 5 of them. They're all from Earth, and they're taken from different time periods in Earth by Highfather. And this never made sense. This Jack Kirby thing. Jack Kirby created the Forever People. And it never made sense to me because in a way it's a little not good. I don't want to go so far as to say it's toxic, but they're basically kidnapped as very small children by Highfather and taken to New Genesis to be raised on New Genesis. And because they're not actually born on New Genesis, they don't actually have the powers of the new gods, but they're raised in such a way with enlightenment or what have you that they all sort of exhibit abilities, let's call them, rather than actual superpowers. And they all they all have a mother box or whatever, and they're able to sort of combine their intellect entities, whatever. That part was never clear to me either, to become the Infinity Man, who's like a very powerful hero that does have superpowers. But anyway, so they're raised on New Genesis, and then eventually, as kind of teenagers, older teenagers, maybe 16, 17, 18 years old, they return back to Earth, and they have their car, the famous car that's on the, I can't remember what it's called, but it's on the cover of Forever People #1, which is also the first full appearance of Darkseid, which is why that comic's a little bit expensive. Um, but yeah, that's basically who they are. So they're not New Genosian, as it were. They're not originally from New Genesis, but they're not really from Earth either, because although born on Earth, not raised on Earth, so there's this mixture. Um, and again, they haven't ever really been fleshed out that well because those old school, early Bronze Age issues of Forever People, they weren't known for their characterization or their, as much as there were cool ideas from Kirby, they haven't really been fleshed out, if you will. And there was a series in the late 80s, early 90s, Forever People series as well. I never read that one, so I don't know. Maybe they got fleshed out a little bit more then. But I take your point. Like if you don't know at all who Seraphin is, and you just were told, hey, he was a hero, then why would he betray? Especially when he knows so many of the new gods, and he goes in there. And to your point, like, okay, Seraphin, you're trusting, or you're choosing to trust Maxwell Lord over like Superman and Batman. Like that doesn't necessarily make sense. But again, I chalked it all up to just the silver tongue of Maxwell Lord. Now, maybe while not overtly um, using his mind control powers on Seraphin, he was able to persuade him, partly
Yeah.
because he's what he's saying and the situation as he's explaining it to Seraphin are things that Seraphin wants to believe. He's predisposed to believe because, according to this, and this is the first time we've ever seen it, as far as I know, from Seraphin, from Rom V. He's a little bit of an outsider. He's more, that's what it was shown with him watching the westerns. The fact that he's sucked into this fantasy world rather than connecting with the other Forever people. Um, he's more interested or more pulled in by the idea of this romanticized world where the good guys always win or whatever. So, if he's predisposed, I'm going to be the hero of my own story. I'm going to be the one that saves the day. Maxwell Lord has given me that opportunity by going and kidnapping this kid.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one person that knows, the right way to do things and to make sure that this kid's not going to, who knows what Maxwell Lord told him, but that's the way that I took it. So, I don't know if that makes it make more sense or not, but anyways, moving on. Up next, we have Titans number 27 from writer John Layman. Max Rayner is the artist. Matt Herms on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. I thought this was one of the weaker issues of Titans so far. So this came in at number 8 for me. I thought the art by Rayner was fine. I just didn't particularly find this villain, the Zookeeper, very interesting. I thought the art was fine. I thought the interactions between the characters was great, especially the conversation between Cyborg and Robot Man. And it is nice to see the Doom Patrol show up, but there just wasn't anything about this issue that particularly stood out for me, except that it does clearly lead into DCKO at the end, which is kind of interesting. Because it literally says the Titans take center stage in DCKO. Except if you listened to the our rankings, are when we chose, other than Cyborg, none of the Titans are actually in. Like even Nightwing, like I think a lot of people would have wanted Nightwing to go far in the tournament. They're not even there. But we've been told, it was mentioned at the panel, DCKO panel at San Diego Comic-Con, that the Titans are like the heroes that are staying back to try to make sure while that tournament's going on that, everything else in the world is, there's no disasters or whatever. So that's the Titans' role to play in DCKO. So that's hinted at here at the end of this issue. So I don't think this made your top 5 either, Rocky, but anything to add?
I did actually still really enjoy this because it reminded me of Morgan Hampton's Doom Patrol. We really liked. I really liked the interaction between Beast Boy,
Dennis Culver.
Pardon me, I apologize, Dennis Culver, and I really enjoyed the interaction between Beast Boy and Beast Girl. I liked how the things that they had in common. I liked the villain, the Zookeeper. I like how sort of all of their sort of origins sort of intertwined, how they tied in sort of absolute power with because it's revealed that Beast Girl actually got her power set from the Zookeeper. So in all those absolute powers where all the people were various villains and superheroes were losing their power set, well, Zookeeper actually lost his powers and it was acquired by Beast Girl, but she also got additional powers as well, and he was trying to get that back this issue. So I thought that was very cleverly done. I thought that was very cleverly done by John Layman. And I thought the character work was really good, and I thought the art was excellent. Always great to see dinosaurs. There's some great moments between Cyborg and Robot Man, where they sort of get in touch with their inner humanity. Robot Man is sort of like a good drink. Robot Man and Cyborg, they're just destined to be good drinking buddies. Whatever robots might drink, I don't know. But I thought it was really good. And it was sort of it was basically, this is the second of a two-parter, but it almost felt like a standalone issue. But I quite liked it. And a great way to end the issue, too, with lead into DCKO. So, yeah. Even though it never made my top 5, it still put a smile on my face. And I really love some of the variant covers on this. Some of the variant covers are just absolutely gorgeous, and even one by John Boy Myers with Starfire and Nightwing was really nice. And yeah, so definitely if you're into variant covers this week, check out Titans issue 27.
Yeah, the pumpkin spice variant is the John Boy one, and Nightwing and Starfire are holding, which you assume are coffee cups of pumpkin spice latte. So just in time for fall, which is interesting. And then if you're checking us out on YouTube, there's a Mike Allred variant cover as well that Rocky has up there in the middle. So yeah, definitely some good covers. All right, up next, Batman Superman World's Finest number 43, written by Mark Waid. Adrian Gutierrez and Sean Isaacs are the artists. Matt Herms on colors, Steve Wands on letters. I kind of sound like a broken record with this. When I talk about this is not in my top 5. It actually comes in last for me at number 9. partly because of the art, the Adrian Gutierrez ink splatter, which I'm not a fan of. I do like Sean Isaac's art, but it's not his usual style here either. Because again, I'm sure he's trying to keep it from looking so different from what Adrian Gutierrez does. And I do like the moments when Robin blows a bubble and it's square, or it's a cube instead of being a, a sphere, which is really great. But like I said before, I'm not a big fan of Bizarro. So while this was enjoyable, something had to come in last. And, again, like the way I rank it a lot of times is which book would I be least likely to want to read again? And it would definitely be this one. So, but it did come into your top 5, Rocky. So what are your thoughts on it?
This came into my top 3 this week, actually. I that just goes to show you how I felt about the books this week. But and I don't mean to make an overhanded compliment or underhanded compliment to this, but I really enjoyed this. But we got Bizarro Krypto joining the fray here too. I thought this was excellent. Basically, this is Superman and Batman and Robin. They're in the Bizarro world, and they got to prevent the destruction of this world because. A friendly alien tried to help this world to warn the inhabitants of Bizarro World that a virus is going to wipe them out and basically destroy their world. And the virus makes them top normal, which is basically fatal for citizens of Bizarro World. But also Bizarro World itself, which is square, has an unstable core because planets, because of physics and comic book science, planets have to be round, otherwise, how does the core? How do you keep a square planet from imploding? Inevitably, I guess you can't. But thanks to comic book science, they got to figure out a way to fix it, and they do this issue, and they do with the help of Bizarro Bibbo, because. Who's the equivalent of a brilliant chemist on Bizarro World? Well, it's Bibbo. He's a bartender. Bibbo is a bartender on mainstream Earth. And of course, Bibbo, Bizarro bartender, is like a brilliant chemist and comes up with a cure for the virus in this comic. And through the help of Krypto and Superman and the Super Bizarro, they managed to. In addition to curing the entire planet, also managed to create stability in the core of Krypton. And there's even some really deeply emotional moments here where I have to say that Mark Waid, there's a moment here where Batman Bizarro has a moment. He can maintain and keep his humanity, but he chooses to go back to being sort of dumb. And Batman Bizarro. And why did he make that choice? And they asked him. Well, ultimately, he makes that choice because because he's his friend. Bizarro Superman is his friend. And so he sort of gives up. There's a tragedy to it. And Mark Waid even refers to a book. And the book is it's actually a reference of a book I'd read it in high school, but I can't remember the name of it. Oh yeah, Flowers, the Flowers for Algernon. It's
Algernon.
Algernon, yeah. And essentially what it's symbolically saying that it's sort of like they did experiments with mice and they made them really intelligent. But it's what happens when you become really intelligent and you gain a new perspective and you become you discover so much about the universe if you have a lot of intelligence and you gain more wisdom and there's so much more that you can see when you're aware of it. But what happens when that's gone? If you suddenly had the mind of a great mind and then suddenly you lost it, would you lose a part of yourself? And that's the choice that Bizarro Batman faces, because he doesn't have to go back to just being Bizarro and say everything backwards and lose his intelligence, but he chooses to. And why? Because to him, his humanity was his friendship with Bizarro Superman. And I thought that was a really nice touch and a really nice reference. And so for that reason, all those reasons, I thought this was a really enjoyable story. It was more than just a Bizarro story. God forbid a Bizarro story actually made me think and had a legitimate point. And like I said, I'm always a sucker for a good metaphor, and there was lots of metaphors in this comic.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the corollary between the Flowers of Algernon, which is a very famous book, and it's been adopted into stage plays and movies and what have you many, many times. I think it was originally published either in the late 1800s or early 1900s, um, like 1890s maybe, or maybe the 1910s.
I can't
Anyway,
remember.
regardless, the corollary between Bizarros and so the whole Algernon is the name of a mouse who, like Rocky said, these scientists developed this formula that makes the mouse really intelligent, but then eventually the mouse is going to lose all of his intelligence. But before they realize that, they actually try this on a person. He's a janitor that works at the institute where these scientists are doing their research. And it's sort of the tragedy of becoming so, like, he gets so smart that he's smarter than any of the scientists that, created this protocol that allowed him to get smart. But then he starts losing the intelligence. It happens to the mouse first, right? And so it's the tragedy of knowing, like, man, you're like the smartest person on the planet, but then eventually that you're going to become what you were before. Is that, and it postulates the question, is that worse than never have been smart? Is it better to have been smart and know you're going to lose the intelligence, or better to have never experienced it all because you're just going to remember that you were, respected? Because he was treated terribly, because he was, in a lot of ways, there was mental retardation and whatever, and he was bullied and what have you. So it goes back to that, isn't it Shakespeare, right? Better to have loved than lost, and never
Loved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort
good,
of
yeah.
similar to that, but with intelligence. So it's so obvious. Like when I saw the Flowers of Algernon reference, I was like, oh yeah, I'd never thought about that before. It's like Mark Waid is much smarter than me. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Justice League Red issue number 2. This is from writer Saladin Ahmed, Clayton Henry on art, Arif Prianto on colors, Bernardo Bryce handles the letters. I really enjoyed this issue. I think it came in at number 5 for me, but you didn't have it in your top 5. So give us your thoughts on it first, Rocky, and then I'll talk about it briefly.
This came in at number 8 for me. I just thought this was. I just thought it was okay. I thought it was kind of. It felt a little bit. It was boring to me. It was more the same thing. It's once again, it's Red Tornado, manipulating or seemingly he has a plan, somewhat of a plan, because he can he's based on algorithms and computer programming. He can sort of predict the future, and the future is disastrous. And so Red Tornado is trying to orchestrate, through the help of Cyborg and Power Girl and Green Lantern, Simon Baez Green Lantern, a series of events that will prevent a disaster from happening in the future. Us readers, we don't really know exactly what that event might be. We're told this issue that one of the things he wants to prevent is the death of Red Canary, of all people, just out of the blue. But Red Tornado's also been lying. We know that he lied to Cyborg and Power Girl. They actually took out a fertilizer robot on a planet, which was actually helping to feed people. And then we discover this issue that he actually lied to Cyborg. He actually indirectly had Cyborg steal a quantum device of some kind, or Cyborg thought he was preventing a theft, but he was actually creating the crisis, and anyways, so they're being Red Tornado is treating Power Girl and Cyborg and Green Lantern. He's treating them like mushrooms. He's keeping them in the dark, and he's feeding them BS, and that's what's happening. And they're frustrated here, and it does end on a very interesting note. That Power Girl, Red Tornado, is confronted. Red Tornado does promise answers, and at the end, he shows. I thought was very interesting. He does show Power Girl her parents, who through some kind of view screen or some device, are Power Girl's parents actually still alive? It was very, very interesting. I'm not really sure how that's possible.
No,
but
they're looking back through. They're looking back through time.
Well, but that's interesting, but they're also communicating, which is interesting. So, and if they're looking back through time, what's interesting about that is Kara's universe was destroyed. And so how is that even possible? How could it be her parents? Because her Earth 2, remember Power Girl, I always understood to be a wild card in the multiverse because her Earth 2 is technically doesn't even exist anymore in the multiverse. Or at least that was my understanding. And so the fact that she can even communicate with her parents, that's pretty cool. I love that. That's my favorite part of this. That's my favorite part of this. I would love to see.
You see that her mother's holding her?
Well, well, again, well, is that her? I don't know.
As far as I know, her parents didn't have any other children.
Well, no, fair enough. But I mean, but I look at that and so still, I'm thinking, what's going on? He said Kara. Well, how would her father, if they're holding? Why would he assume that's Kara if his wife's holding Kara? He's never seen her as an older. Like if I saw an older blonde woman, I wouldn't assume it's my 10-year-old daughter. You know what I mean? Just so that seems so weird to me. But
based on the conversation that he has with Power Girl, I don't think this is the first time that Red Tornado is talking to her parents. He's like, I have to show you something. So in my mind,
so they're getting a message from. So you think he's been communicating with her parents and
somehow they're communicating back through time. Red Tornado has been, in my mind, the way I took it was Red Tornado has been talking to Power Girl's parents previously. Maybe they're part of, whatever research he's doing or why he believes what he believes or whatever. And so, for all we know, part of the reason that he recruited Power Girl was because he had already been in contact with her parents. I mean, again, there's too much that we don't know.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. There's way too much that we don't know that, we're speculating, whatever. But for me, the reason that it's in my top 5 is because of all those questions, really intriguing, answers. I mean, I'm not one of these people, that, tinfoil hat that would think that Red Tornado, because that's just too cliched in my mind. I think Saladin Ahmed is a better writer than that to do the whole Terminator thing, or Skynet thing, where Red Tornado, himself is a bad actor. So I'm inclined to trust what Red Tornado is saying. And when you start talking about Cyborg, in terms of computers and simulations and figuring things out or whatever, he's right up there with Mr. Terrific and Lex Luthor in terms of kind of understanding. And he makes the comment, like there's just too many variables. And this was brought up in the first issue. There's too many variables, Red Tornado. You can't know for sure that, the disaster that you've foreseen or think's going to happen is going to happen. And even if it does happen, you can't possibly know because there's too many variables. I mean, we're talking about quintillions and quintillions of variations based on how many beings are in the known, universe or galaxy or whatever, and their decisions and whatever. It's like, just think about the butterfly effect, and one thing compounds. You change one thing and it compounds. Like, you can't possibly control it. And that's the whole reason that he had Cyborg go and steal this piece of tech, because it's going to make his ability to predict what's going to happen more accurate. It's never going to be 100% or whatever, but I'm inclined to believe Red Tornado. That's just how I choose to take this story. So based on that, based on what Red Tornado is saying, based on the mysteries and what we don't know, that's very intriguing to me, is why I kind of ranked this so high. In addition to a couple of other things, the characterization beyond just me choosing to believe what Red Tornado is saying, despite the incredulity of these various heroes, which you don't blame them. Red Tornado keeps, manipulating them. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, you would think he would, but I think he's so worried. You think he would just tell them the truth, but he's so worried that they'll say no. And he's so committed to this course of action. And again, he's running all the probabilities. Like, I'm going to say what I need to say to get them to do what I need them to do. So he's basically right now a walking, talking, the walking, talking equivalency of the ends justify the means, right? Like, he's saving all of existence. So whatever lies he has to tell in the end will be worth it. But the characterization, beyond that from Saladin Ahmed, like you mentioned, Red Canary, like Red Tornado is trying to save all of existence. But at the same time, one person, one young girl is important enough to him to go through all this and to put his reputation on the line, to put the trust that he's built up with his fellow heroes over the years on the line, or what have you. And at one point when he's talking to the heroes, he literally falls down on his knees as much as you can when you're not don't actually have a physical body. But I thought that was an interesting choice from the artist Clayton Henry. He's begging them. He's begging them, like he's on his knees, like begging them to believe what he's saying and to help him out. So I thought that was a powerful moment. And then finally, what elevates this and puts it in my top three is the art from Clayton Henry. Like this doesn't work in my mind without the art from Clayton. He does such a fantastic job of conveying emotion, um, and just great character work, great body language. Like I said, Red Tornado down on his knees and what have you. The color work, which is very primary and makes this feel very much like a superhero comic. Like I say all the time, like I love the art. I thought the art was fantastic, and there's so much that we don't know, but this is not going to be a situation where it gets. I mean, this is only issue 2, right? And I feel like so much has happened. Like this is moving at a very fast pace, so it's not going to be one of these situations like we're going to be 6 issues in and we're still trying to find answers. It's moving at a very quick pace, which you kind of would expect it to, based on the fact that we have such a limited number of characters. Saladin Ahmed doesn't have to jump around, to this. Hey, let's check in and see what's happening with this character. Now we got to go over here and see what's happening with these characters. It's such a small core group that it should move. It should continue to move at a really fast pace. So yeah. I really enjoyed it. I went back and forth. It was ranked at 5, and then when I went back and I flipped through it, I was like, I gotta elevate this. I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
Anyway, up next we have Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton, number 4. Ryan North is the writer, Mike Norton on art, Ian Herring on colors, Farron Delgado handles the letters. This was in my top 5 as well. I think it came in at number 4. Yep, came in at number 4. Again, I mean, if you're a dog lover, this is fantastic. I can see why. Like, it hasn't. I don't think it's been ranked very high for you. I don't know that you've been enjoying it as much as I have. That might, I'm curious to hear, where you have it this week as well.
Yeah.
But I loved the relationship that Krypto has with the other dog. The other dog who unfortunately doesn't survive his encounter with the antagonist of this issue, which sort of ties in a lot of ways to Power Girl and Supergirl stories that we've had in the past. Maybe Power Girl more than anything with the symbiote ship and what have you. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But to me, it was the quieter pages with Krypto befriending this other lost puppy. Is what I enjoyed about it the most. The other part with the robot and the Brainiac sentience or whatever you want to call it, Brainiac computer, like that was fine. But for me, that wasn't that was kind of the extra part, if you will. That was the side dish. For me, the main dish was Krypto and his emotionality, and those are the pages without any dialogue. How much he cared for this other dog and how affected he was by the death of that other dog and what have you. So yeah, for me, that's where it really shone, and the art by Mike Norton was fantastic as well. So man, this like if you have somebody who loves dogs and they don't read comics and you're like, man, I really want to get them into comics, you just buy them this Krypto trade when it comes out. He's definitely having a moment. It's great to see. Between the Superman movie and this Krypto, the Last Dog of Krypton series, he's definitely having a moment. So anyway, give us your thoughts, Rocky.
I thought this was very touching. I had just moved this out of my top 5 just before we went on. But it was initially ranked number 5 for me, but it's just outside of number 6. But I honestly this week I could maybe squeeze it in my top 5 again. The emotionality here is this is awesome. I mean, my favorite moments are what this has visceral violence. I've never read a comic where Krypto has been more violent than in this issue. Where he took completely justified aggressive action. But I mean, the way he takes out this sort of like, I guess, Omega level sort of like robot or Brainiac, like it looks like an old Brainiac robot that sort of reactivated and kills his dog, his best dog friend. The equivalent of Jimmy Olsen for Krypto, I guess. And you nailed it with the quiet moments with Krypto walking with his friend. and his friend ends up getting literally killed, a victim of this rogue brainiac robot, and then when the eyes turn red, and this is, I believe this is probably the very first time that. I believe this is the first time in this series, and arguably, since this is sort of like Krypto Year One, this is probably the first time Krypto ever used his heat vision, I think, and used it in visceral fashion, and just takes out this robot, and then at the end has a quiet moment after the violence. He still, even though his young friend is dead, he still sleeps with him one final night, and it's just very, very touching. It really, really was, and then to top it off, after there's been so much. I mean, this is the end of 4 issues, and Krypto's been through so much, and it's only at the end of this issue that he finally crosses into Kansas, where he might finally ultimately meet Clark Kent, his new owner. But anyways, it was very touching and very well done. And this is absolutely a perfect gift for somebody who's on the tipping point of becoming a comic book reader and a pet lover. Yeah, you're right. This would be a good thing to buy them in trade for sure, especially with Christmas coming up.
Yeah, 100% make a great Christmas gift. All right, up next we have Absolute Flash number 7 from writer Jeff Lemire, Travis Moore on art, Adriana Lucas on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. Absolute Flash has been sliding a little bit for me. That being said, I did enjoy this issue more than a lot of the recent ones. This came in at number 6 for me. And what I particularly enjoyed was we have the Rogues finally catching up with Absolute Wally West. And instead of taking them back to Fort Fox, they're like, hey, join up with us. We'll go on the run. Like, we have our powers, we have our abilities. There's no reason for us to, go back and follow orders, as it were. So that was surprising to me that they wanted to do that. But at the same time, it was like, well, yeah, they're rogues. Why wouldn't they? Like, that's great. Because, with Captain Cold saying, we can do whatever we want. We can take whatever we want. So you want to go rogue? And Wally's got a little bit of a smirk on his face in that last panel. So I thought that was like so accurate with how, I would expect the rogues to act. And granted, I'm going off, how the rogues of the main universe would act, which might not necessarily line up with how, because these are different characters, might not line up with how these rogues would act. But I still enjoyed it. Like, I wasn't expecting it, and I liked that little twist at the end. And I thought the Travis Moore art was strong as well. But so it just missed out on my top 5. But where do you have it, Rocky?
It came in at number 4 for me, and this is, I think this is, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I think this might be one of my favorite Absolute Flash issues so far, or one of them. Because this has been an underwhelming series for me. I haven't been really a fan of Wally West, quite frankly, or the monkey on his back, this Gorilla Grodd, to be blunt. But this actually, it really worked for me. I like the fact that, Wally West, he thinks he's escaped. He goes into a grocery store because he needs food, but he has no money. And he apologizes to the clerk, and he uses super speed to steal a bunch of food because he needs food for energy. But it's too late. He just by using the super speed to steal the food, he passes out, and he gets picked up by the sheriff, thrown in jail, and the rogues easily find him, and the rogues come, and it's kind of funny. It's very underwhelming. I mean, they find Wally West very easily. Meanwhile, Wally West is being interrogated by Thawne. Because he just wants to help his son. We see a hint that Thawne has mentions that she mentions capturing. There's a creature in a tube, and it looks like this is. I don't know if that. I look at that and it almost looks. I was going to say, could that be Abin Sur? I'm not sure what creature that is in this tube that Thawne has, but it's an alien of some kind. I thought maybe at first it was Abin Sur, but I don't think it's Abin Sur from the Absolute Green Lantern series. Or could it be a version of Martian Manhunter? But it can't be that either. So I'm not sure who that is. Be curious if people read Absolute Flash, if they have some theories as to who is the creature that. Thawne says they found God, and is she referring to this creature that they got in this vat. I'm not really sure, but is this connected to another series? I don't know, but I think that's cool. Meanwhile, the fact that the Rogues got Wally West, and they're actually willing to help Wally find Gorilla Grodd, because Wally's in prison, but Gorilla Grodd, the little monkey on his shoulder, escaped. I love the fact that the Rogues helped Wally, find Grodd, and they kind of, somewhere along the way, they have some grudging respect for Wally, because as they said, Wally's exactly like them. They want to go rogue, and he's definitely rogue, and he's got a very good power set, so why not drag the kid along? He's kind of a rebellious kid, so why not? And now, one question I have, and maybe you can answer it, I'm not sure who this guy in Lightning is. Wally West ends up fighting this character that I think I escaped. I guess that's the new Weather Wizard. I guess that's the equivalent of the Absolute Weather Wizard. He kind of looks like Moses.
Yeah, that's how I took it. I took it to be I took it to be the Absolute Weather Wizard. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's.
So they incapacitate him. I'm surprised they won't ask the Weather Wizard to, maybe give him a shave, because he looks like Santa Claus there. Santa Claus with lightning. But maybe have Weather Wizard join the Rogues as well. But anyways, it's interesting, and I actually really enjoyed the art this issue. I like that Wally West finally came into his own, and he pulled the lightning, because he kept getting hit by lightning, and he finally caught on that maybe I'll let the lightning flow through me, and he's slowly starting to control and understand his power set a little bit. That's good to see finally at the 7th issue. And and I thought the art was really good too. So this I just thought that this was one of the more interesting issues for me, and I thought a lot. I felt that there was some progression here moving forward, and I'm really curious to see what is Thawne talking about when she's talking about this predecessor and about they found God. What is she referring to? So I'm really curious. So just is she referring to something in the pages of Absolute Flash, or is she alluding to the larger Absolute universe? I don't know, but I'm really curious to find out.
Yeah, I'm unsure of who that person or entity or whatever being is in that tube as well. I was trying to figure it out, like looking at it and what have you, trying to think of different Flash villains it could be. And we just don't see enough of it to have any idea. It almost looks like a White Martian. In a lot of ways, but I don't. It's just not sure. We'll have to wait and see. All right, I guess we're on to the last book we're going to talk about in detail. We have Batman and Robin Year 1, number 11, co-plotted by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. Waid helps the scripting, art by Chris Samnee, colors by Mateus Lopez, letters by Clayton Cowles. I think this was in your top 5, Rocky. What are your thoughts on it?
I moved Krypto out of my top 5 and put this in the top 5 because I had forgotten about this, and so apologies to Krypto. This maybe could have, Krypto could have replaced this one, but at the end of the day, I really love it. First of all, I love the cover. I love cover A. I think it's awesome. It's Batman standing in front of a bunch of Robins, because it's sort of thematically related. Again, this is another. What do I always say? My pet peeve is I hate covers that have no connection to the content. This cover does. It's symbolically and thematically related to the content of the story, where there's a bunch of clay faces, imitating people all over Gotham City. So the idea that there's many Robins there's not many Robins in the comic, but again, you got that illusion on the cover. But the story itself, I love the fact that Batman continues, thinks Batman doesn't know that Grimaldi is dead. He thinks the general is still alive, General Grimaldi. He doesn't find out to the end of this issue that Grimaldi is dead and that this is all a setup by Two-Face. Two-Face's plan, Two-Face is being absolutely brilliant here. His plan is really coming to fruition. He's got control of, it's discovered that because Two-Face has got control of all the city officials as well as the judges and the lawyers who have been replaced by basically clay-face duplicates or clones, so to speak, that he's manipulated events and clearly broken the law, but because he's controlled the law with all his Clayface clones, he's essentially, that's how he got Bruce Wayne's home to be invaded by Child and Family Services. That's how he got young Dick Grayson taken away. And that's how he He got all of Wayne Manor sort of confiscated. And I mean, obviously, none of this is legal. As Bruce Wayne himself tells Alfred in this issue, none of it's legal because they're obviously just making it up as Two-Face is just completely controls the system. And it's getting worse. So Mark Waid does a really good job here with fantastic art by Chris Samnee, really setting up just how screwed Batman is. I mean, Two-Face, this is probably one of the most, frankly, a brilliant plan on Two-Face. He seems to have all his bases covered here. And but of course, at the end of the day, Two-Face sets it up so that all the minions that he has, all the various people that he's controlling with the Clayface power, the side effect is that it kills them, and they all ultimately begin to sort of self-destruct and harden up into clay and then die. And Batman tries his damnedest to save them, but there's a helplessness that Batman has, and as he fails to save them, and there's also emotional moments where Batman wants to look in on where Dick Grayson is, because Dick Grayson is taken from the home by social services. He's put into foster care. Batman spies on him. He questions himself with Alfred. Maybe it's better that Dick's not around me, or maybe it was a mistake. I shouldn't have him as a sidekick. This is a dangerous job. What am I doing? Batman's questioning himself, which he bloody well should, because it is a dangerous job. But but Alfred says, no, I mean, you're a good man. This is focus, get the job done. That's what he does. It doesn't go Batman's way, and it looks terrible at the end. Batman looks like he's about to die, and and lo and behold, he's falling from a building, having been defeated by one of the Clayface minions. But he's saved by Robin, who grabs his hand and says, "You're doing this alone? Are you insane?" And it's really a wonderful moment, because it shows that that Batman Batman literally tells Alfred in the issue that I'm better off alone. I got to do this alone. I should have done this alone. I should never involve that. And then, ironically, of course, it's his partner defying this idea that Batman has to always do it alone. It's his partner, Robin, who saves him. And I thought it was just a wonderful moment. It was a great way to cap off this issue, where a lot happens in this issue. It's action-packed. Chris Samnee's art is fantastic. And really, I got to credit him. He's a co-plotter, so he's also the writer as well. And this is visual storytelling at its finest as well, as a compliment to Chris Samnee. So very well done. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I probably could have put this even higher, but this is why I'm I'm more convinced now that Krypto's in the right spot at ranking number 6. This deserves to be in the top 5. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree 100%. This is in my top 3. And while you're correct, and when you say a lot happens in terms of action, right? Batman is a force in this particular issue. But in a way, this is such a simple story, because you touched on it, right? It's the fact that Batman needs Robin. But from the start, when Mark Waid first talked to us about this project at San Diego Comic-Con 2024, you mentioned it had been announced and it was coming, him reuniting with Chris Samnee, and this was Samnee's like bucket list project, something that he wanted to do, where he was co-writing it along with Mark Waid, and then obviously drawing it and exploring the relationship between Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne. And the fact that, Bruce, when he thinks Dick is happy, you talked about it. He's spying on Dick, as Dick's been placed in this other foster home, and he believes him to be happy, and he's ready to walk away. And he tells Alfred, Batman started off as a solo act, and, it's time to go back that way, because he thinks that Dick is happy. And then we as readers know that that's not the case when we see that Dick has just been putting on a brave face, because as soon as Dick goes and closes the door to his bedroom, we see the kind of the despair that he shows. And again, great art, great character acting from Chris Samnee to have that so obvious in the body language and what have you. And then the moment at the end that Rocky talked about with, Dick coming and saving Bruce from dying. And go, are you doing this alone? What, are you crazy? So while a lot does happen in terms of action and moving the story forward, with Batman now being aware that it was Two-Face that was behind, Grimaldi's not there anymore. Things are starting to fall apart a little bit, but exactly what, we could say they're falling apart for these Clayface minions, but in a way they're falling into place for Two-Face, because he's not about to share power with anybody. And he's lied to all these these henchmen of his saying that, you know, he's going to share the wealth or whatever, when he knew all along probably that this formula wasn't going to last and their bodies were eventually going to harden and turn to dust. And so they're falling into place for him in terms of he's going to have all the power to himself. He's going to have all the money, you know, all the spoils of this particular plan to himself as well, and have set himself up for being able to control not just Gotham, but have a much wider sphere of influence based on the fact that he has manipulated and caused all these billionaires to be, you know, arrested or their integrity called into question, done illegal things, or, you know, insider trading, whatever it is that he's managed to manipulate the system. And we know he's bribed federal officials, whatever. So he really has this huge cachet of power based on his plan. And again, everything is falling into place. But in terms of that part of the plot all moving forward, the simplicity in the story of, at the end of the day, you can sum this up in a very, you know, simple statement. Batman needs Robin and Robin needs Batman. And at the end of the day, it's Bruce needing Dick and Dick needing Bruce. And you know, they're a team for a reason. You know, Batman needs a Robin or what have you. And I completely understand and don't disagree with what's happened over the years with Dick Grayson outgrowing the role of Robin and what have you. But and you know, I've talked about Tim Drake being my favorite Robin before, and a lot of that has to do with like nostalgia, and that was the first Robin that had his own ongoing series, and you know, I collected it, I read a lot of whatever, so probably read more of his stories because of that solo series than anybody else, whatever. Damian being a brat, I don't think anybody liked Jason Todd as Robin. That's why he got killed. He was just a whiny punk. So at the end of the day, it's like, when you really stop to think about it, like the best Robin is actually Dick Grayson and always will be in a way. And you almost regret to some extent, you know, that he outgrew the role, because, you know, if you want to just take a snapshot in time of Batman and Robin, it's Bruce Wayne and it's Dick Grayson. And it works, right? And I get, again, why you have Dick Grayson, you know, evolve and grow. If you're going to keep telling stories of that character, you can't just leave them in that same spot and have time not move forward. It's one of these paradoxes of comics, right? Like we read about these characters, we have a connection with these characters are beloved, and so you want to see them change and evolve and grow, and you can't keep telling the same story over and over and over. But as time actually, you know, not time in the comics, but time in real world passes, now all of a sudden you have characters that, you know, like I said earlier, we were talking about Batman Second Night. Bruce Wayne would be like 150 years old now, and that just doesn't work, you know, for telling the story. So kind of the same thing. I get why they evolved Dick Grayson, and there's been other, but they always replace him, right? There's always another Robin that comes along because the concept just works. But at the end of the day, there's something to be said for the Dick Grayson version of Robin being the first and best. And that's a simple idea, that Batman needs Robin. Dick Grayson, in a way, was, you know, the best of them, for so many different reasons. And it's the same reason that Dick Grayson is still beloved as Nightwing, right? So that's what this whole series has been about. And maybe we've taken a little bit of a roundabout way to get there, because this is issue 11, that's, you know, penultimate issue, next to last issue. And we get that point hammered home, like as succinctly and as simply and as powerfully as anything that we've had in the series so far. So I don't mind that it took us this long to get there, because it does land so hard, and it's done so well. And I'm really excited in a way for the final issue to see how this all wraps up and how that point is kind of settled, if you will. But at the same time, surprisingly, because I didn't start out as a huge fan of the series, it didn't rank, you know, very high for me week in and week out when it showed up, I'm a little disappointed that we're going to get issue 12, because now it's going to end just when it's like starting to sing as a series. But again,
it's funny that it's actually gotten better as it's went on. It's actually, the later issues I find are better. It's actually gotten better in my eyes, which is rare.
It has been on an upward trajectory. It started a little slow, a little bit of a slower burn. But that's what you want. So they're going to end on a high note, but then at the same time, but it does end, right? And it's so interesting because it sort of goes hand in hand with what I was just saying. You can't keep, like, this is a series that's about the idea that Batman needs Robin, Robin needs Batman, Dick needs Bruce, Bruce needs Dick. You can't keep going with that one note indefinitely. You just can't. Like, you craft a story and you put that point forward and you reinforce it and you show why it's true, but you can't keep doing that over it, like, because then it loses its power. So it's so good, and it's going to be a bittersweet ending because I'm sure it's going to land and nail the landing. But again, it's going to be over, but it will exist, and we can go back and read it, as a collection, and it'll probably do really, really well. So anyway, like I said, that does it for the books that we're going to talk about in detail. I think originally Wonder Woman and Catwoman were supposed to be out this week. Those have been moved to next week, so obviously we'll be talking about those next week. There also is another reprint of Absolute Batman #1. They're calling it DC WIP, Absolute Batman 1, so work in progress. So it's an issue that has like a ton of behind the scenes and character sketches and all that sort of stuff from DC. So if you're so inclined and you want to see all that stuff, you can check that out. And then also Batman Day is coming up this week. So there's a ton of other Batman content, like there's a Batman Day 2025 Absolute Batman version. There's a Batman and Robin Year 1 Batman Day version. There's a Batman Year 2 collection. That's that version. There's a DCKO Ash Can 2025 special edition. There's a reprint facsimile edition of Batman #1. And then there are so many reprints of Absolute issues. I'm going to go through them really quickly in case you miss some of these and you want to be aware. So Absolute Batman #1, 8th printing. Absolute Batman #7, 3rd printing. Absolute #1, 7th printing. Absolute Batman #4, 4th printing. Absolute Batman #6, 3rd printing. Absolute Batman #5, 3rd printing. Absolute Batman #2, 6th printing. Absolute Batman #3, 5th printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #5, 2nd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #6, 2nd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #1, 7th printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #7, 2nd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #8, 2nd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #2, 5th printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #4, 3rd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #3, 4th printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #9, 2nd printing. Absolute Wonder Woman #10, 2nd printing. So tons of printings. If you've missed anything, hopefully you can get your hands on the things that you've missed. But more than that, the reason I wanted to read all those off, all those printings, is if you want to be sure that you're not missing out on these books when they come out, because typically the first printing is going to have the most value. Now, that's not always true, because sometimes if there's a subsequent printing that has a cover that people really, really love, and there tend to be lower print runs on subsequent printings, sometimes a subsequent printing can be worth more. But generally speaking, people want the first print of things. So the reason I wanted to read all those off, first of all, if you've missed any of them, hopefully you can get your hands on them. Secondly, it's a reminder to pre-order. These books are selling out. These Absolute books are selling out every single week, week in, week out. That's why they're having to print more. So if you want to be sure you don't miss out, you should be pre-ordering. You should be letting your comic shop know if they have a pull box or whatever. You can do so. So let me real quickly give a rundown on the collections that are out this week. There's not a whole heck of a lot of them. We have Green Arrow Volume 4, Freshwater Kills. This is collecting the first 6 issues of the Chris Condon run with art by Montos. So that's issues 18 through 24. We've got a Harley Quinn Wild at Heart. This is collecting the Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti written run that had art mostly by Chad Hardin. It's collecting issues 0 through 13. And this is in that compact comics form. Again, you're going to want to get out there on Wednesday. I have 100% confidence this thing's going to sell out, because it's 14 books for $10. Yes, it's that smaller size, but that's just such a popular run. There's many people that have heard about it, and some of those early issues can be expensive. So maybe they've been waiting for this kind of collected edition. And that compact comics edition, they're so small, you can fit them in your purse or backpack really easily. So I totally expect that to sell out. We also have DC's finest, The Spectre, The Wrath of the Spectre, which collects a bunch of early Spectre issues from the Silver Age, Showcase, Adventure Comics, Ghost, Brave and the Bold, All Star Squadron, his 1 through 10 of his first solo series. So that's getting a DC's finest edition. We've got Scooby Apocalypse Omnibus hardcover, which collects issues 1 through 36 of Scooby Apocalypse. This is one of the last things that J.M. DeMatteis and Keith Giffen did together. So some of the art in these issues is by Keith Giffen, some is by Dale Eaglesham, some is by Howard Porter. We've got J.M. DeMatteis as the writer, Keith Giffen credited as writer as well, and then also Heath Corson wrote some of those issues as well. And then finally, Batman by Grant Morrison, Book 2, trade paperback, collecting Batman 676 through 683, as well as 700, and then Batman and Robin 1 through 9. If you're a fan of Grant Morrison and his Batman run, you may want to pick that up. Most of the art in that by Frank Quitely. There's also some Tony S. Daniel art. I haven't read most of Morrison's Batman. His Batman run just wasn't for me, but I know some people that swear by his run and it's their favorite Batman run. I don't get it. It's not for me. It doesn't work. Don't care for it. But if you're a Morrison fan, you're gonna like that. And if you're not a Morrison fan, you won't. It's that simple. It's that simple. That it very much Morrison's Batman run epitomizes who he is. Like, really, Bat Cow? No, I can do without Bat Cow in my life. So anyway, I ranked them first last week, Rocky. So your turn. Give us your rankings.
My rankings coming in at number 9, I put New Gods 10. Number 8, Justice League Red issue 2. Number 7, Titans 27. Coming in at number 6, Krypto issue 4. Number 5, Batman and Robin year 1, issue 11. Coming in at number 4, Absolute Flash issue 7. Coming in at number 3, World's Finest 43. Coming in at number 2, Nightwing 30. And coming in at number 1 for me was Batman Second Night issue 1. I thought Dan Jurgens and Mike Perkins just did a fabulous job. I love the art. I love the story. It just it resonated with me. I thought I just really enjoyed it this week. It just felt like a sort of a breath of fresh air. And yeah, that's my ranking here. So yeah,
That's so interesting. So before we started, Rocky was giving me his top 5 because he doesn't tell me exactly where everything's ranked. He gives them to me in no particular order. And he was doing that, and I was like, man, his top 5, like 4 of his top 5 are like I didn't have the same at all. Like those were like the books that I enjoyed the least for the most part. But what's interesting is I actually had the same number 1 as you up until today. So, and I'll explain that in just a second. So for me, at number 9, I had Batman, Superman World's Finest. So I have that at 9. Again, it's in Rocky's top 3. Then at number 8, I have Titans number 27. So we both didn't particularly enjoy, that was kind of higher rank for me. Then at number 7, I have Nightwing number 130. Again, that's one that Rocky has in his top 3. So we're just so opposite this time. And then number 6 for me is Absolute Flash. That's in his top 5, but not so far apart because he's got it at 4. I have it at 6. And then at number 5, I have Justice League Red number 2, and he's got that at number 8. So again, we're very, very far apart on that. And then number 4, I've got Krypto. He had it at 6. It wasn't his top 5, as he mentioned, so we're not too far apart on that one. Then at number 3, I've got New Gods number 10. Really, really enjoyed that. He had that last as the one he enjoyed the least. Again, we talked about it with the difference in how we perceive Seraphin or whatever, so it makes complete sense. But then I did have Batman, the Batman Second Night, number 1 at my number 1 until I read Batman and Robin Year 1. Batman and Robin Year 1, number 11, is my number 1. Now, the reason I switched it, so we didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't get the press preview for Batman and Robin Year 1 like until today, as we're recording this, until Tuesday. So, I read all these books, like I actually was ahead. I read them all actually last weekend. And then I flipped back through them just this past weekend um, to remind myself and rank them. And so I couldn't read Batman and Robin Year One, number 11, so I didn't have it ranked at all. But then when I read
Yeah.
Batman and Robin Year 11, like it really just hit home for me for all those reasons I was talking about before. So it actually ended up as my number one, and so then I just bumped everything else up a slot or down a slot, however you want to take it. But yeah, really interesting. So we both really enjoyed. I mean, you really enjoyed Batman Year One as well. But yeah,
Oh
interesting that
yeah.
we almost had the same. We almost had the same number one. It just got bumped at the last second. But yeah, so just again, it goes to show that kind of the nature of how things are subjective and different strokes for different folks. Just because a comic you didn't enjoy a particular comic doesn't mean it's not good. No reason to get personal, attack creators as people do sometimes. Nobody sets out to make a bad comic, as we say all the time. But yeah, sometimes they just don't resonate with you for one reason or another. And that's a great example, because some of these we're so far apart on, and others were like, yeah, almost the same. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, DCKO coming up pretty soon. Looking forward to that. And obviously we'll be probably doing some more episodes with rankings and what have you. Don't forget, if you do feel like you've enjoyed the comic source over the years and want to contribute, $1 or $2 to help get me to New York Comic Con, I really appreciate it. You can just scan the QR code there, and again, any little bit helps. Doesn't mean I'm going to start charging for my content. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop making YouTube. Doesn't mean I don't want you watching it and enjoying it and engaging with us in the comments. Of course, I want all those things. And regardless of whether I make it to New York Comic Con or not, I'm still going to be here every week doing the show with Rocky. So if you're listening audio only, don't forget there's thousands and thousands of past episodes that you can go and listen to, interviews and convention coverage and all kinds of great stuff. It's available wherever you get your podcast, whatever app or platform you use. Just do a search for The Comic Source and subscribe. And if you do happen to be listening to us audio only and you want to see the amazing art and covers and our smiling faces and be able to see those cool cards that I open, those packs of cards I open at the beginning of the show every week, be sure you're heading over to Rocky's channel on YouTube. Comic Space Boom ! Once you're there, comment. Let us know what you thought about the books, this week or what have you. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to Rocky's channel, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on the new content when it comes out. And then don't forget, as long as you're on YouTube, might as well head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel and subscribe there as well. Ring that notification bell, like the videos, comment on them when they come out, because all the other Comic Source content other than the DC Spotlight comes out on the Comic Source YouTube channel. So, yeah, I guess that's going to do it for this week. Hope everybody can get out to Batman Day at their comic shop this weekend. Pick up some cool Batman books. A lot of cool stuff about to land for DC, but it's going to be interesting over these next couple of weeks because, like Rocky and I were saying, there's a little bit of a lame duck period here as we're heading into to DCKO. But Rocky and I both have had a chance to check out the first issue. It's awesome. Get ready for some crazy twists and turns. And
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to a really cool end of the year for DC. So, any last
That's right.
thoughts before we sign off, Rocky?
Yeah, enjoy the calm before the storm, all you viewers out there, because October is going to be a hell of a bang. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and we'll likely, as Rocky mentioned earlier, we'll likely be reviewing those Marvel DC crossovers. Probably, like he said, do them on their own in their own episodes. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate you all joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.